So often if I talk about something, it's because I've heard something or talked to somebody else about something, and now I feel like it's something that like deserves its own platform, so to speak. Like it deserves its own moment. I got a call the other day about a 2.5-year-old that is, I guess, out amongst a group of horses, and one of the horses apparently needs to get like a lunch or something, right? So it's a rough board situation. The horse is kept out in the pasture, and one of the herd members needs to be fed a lunch. And the owner apparently goes into the herd, into the pasture with the lunch. And it's created an issue with this young horse whose manners or her manner training didn't include being left out of a meal, right? So I guess the situation escalated to where the young horse started charging this woman, the woman who was bringing food into the pasture, only for one horse. Now, my thoughts on that are a good farm, a well-managed farm, isn't even going to allow something like that. What responsibility do you think the barn should have for a horse that needs to get a meal midday that other horses in their pasture aren't brought in for or aren't given the same? My rule would be, if the horse is rough board, then obviously they don't have a stall to be brought into. I get that, right? Like, just say, well, my rule is the horse needs to be brought in for that meal. Okay, no, they don't need to be brought in for that meal, but the horse needs to be taken out of the pasture for that meal. The other horses don't need to know that there is something they're missing out on, and they don't need to know that if they threaten the person, it might work out for them that they get that thing that they're being left out on. So I would automatically say, like, if your horse requires, additional feeding in the day, take your horse out of the pasture, even if it's just on the other side of the fence. Groom them while they eat that lunch or whatever meal that you need to give them extra. Groom them, right? Spend some time with them while they're eating. Do something that makes that a personal thing between you and your horse, and not something that involves the other horses and gets the other horses emotionally stirred up, stressed out. Where a horse that might have a tendency to turn aggressive, where you're not going to find out how aggressive that horse is willing to get. A 2.5-year-old being told you can't have another meal, but here it is, ha ha ha, that's mean, and I'm not saying that her manners shouldn't be addressed also, and that's what the owner is in the process of signing up for. She wanted to come here, and I'm so flattered that she'd want her horse to come here from New York, but I have a horse on stall rest that has caused me a lot of emotional stress, right? Because I care so much about their happiness that, his wound is past like risk of it reopening, like it's healed, but we have a little bit of a proud flesh that we're trying to make sure we keep at bay because it's on the foot. And it was a very, 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 very deep wound. But the wound itself is healed. Like, there's no risk of... So it's not like I'm worried about him being stupid in the stall and splitting open this wound again. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about his happiness. Like, I care that he's happy. So I told her, I said, I can't right now. I just need a little decompression. Once he gets back out in the pasture and I know all is well, You know, maybe then I'm like, how soon do you need? And she wanted sooner than I could agree to. So she, you know, she found some place. She was very happy with where she went and audited a lesson and whatever. And then from there, the horse will be moved to a new barn because there were no options for her to prevent her horse from getting worse, right? She's not there to control this. Like, okay, like maybe during that time, she could be the one that takes her horse out, right? So that there's no issue. Well, that's a hell of a lot to ask of another owner because your horse has this special need. So anyway, I know that that's really like a very elaborate thing, but I think there should be a policy that says, you know, like no owners are allowed to bring food for their horse, specific food, cookies, doesn't matter. No, you're not allowed to go into the pasture with food because you're going to get hurt. Period. You're going to get hurt. The horses don't give a crap about your intentions or only about that horse. They give a crap about what you have on your food cart, right? You are just a walking dispenser. And if they have to knock you down to get the lid off, they're going to do that. I don't understand why people actually don't know that horses really could care less. But anyway, that's so I think it's the farm's responsibility to just say no food in, like an owner can't bring food into a pasture. I think it's a reasonable policy, right? Because now it caused a problem for somebody else. Like it caused a problem for the person trying to bring food into the pasture, right? The horse apparently charged and started to charge this person. And now I guess they're carrying a whip or something with them. Which, like I have a horse that if you say no, the horse that's stuck in, if you say no to him, he flashes his ears back and arches his neck. He hates the word no. Well, if I started carrying a whip, I can imagine how much nastier he would get. He's just by nature, he's not a super friendly guy. He's very quick to want to have an argument with you, right? Even the vet, when she came and looked at the wound the last time, she's like, I'm not even hurting him. And he just doesn't want to be told to do something. I'm like, yep, that's his personality. That's his personality. He just, he would rather have an argument. So knowing that, we're going to work with him to teach him how to be a little more agreeable without abuse. Like, I'm glad he's here. I'm sorry, I'm going everywhere, right? I'm glad he's here, and so is his owner. That's why she chose to bring him here. Because I have a horse that was much like him, that I had actually purchased with the intention of selling her, like having like a horses, trained by me, from birth kind of thing, and sold as like signature horses, right? That was my intention. And when I realized that she had a personality that had a short fuse, it was her personality. I've taught her a 1,000,000% that she will not hurt me whatsoever. And I know where her thresholds are, so I never push her to see if I can undo all this good emotional management training that I did with her. But because she is who she is, right? I have no reason to destroy my horse's personality. I just want to teach them how to be able to get along in a social environment so that their personality doesn't hinder them, right? So I teach them how to manage their emotions. I teach them how to manage their discomfort and not retaliate or even come on the offense to a human. But I also know where her thresholds are, just like I'm learning this kid's thresholds to the point to where like we're going to teach him how to manage his emotions. We're going to teach him how to manage his discomforts. I never sold her. She's 17. I never sold her because I was terrified that somebody would push her, and then with a limited education on how to manage a horse like her, she would have been abused. So that's why she never found a new home. She's I got her when she was Well, I purchased her when she was 4 months old, but I paid extra to keep her standing by her mommy for 2 more months, so she wasn't weaned until she was 6 months old. And, you know, she otherwise is a super, super sweet horse. But she has a side of her personality that is quick to fight. So, like that said, you know, this 2.5-year-old may have that type of personality also, and it may always be something that's kept at bay, but situations that could exaggerate the conditions that would bring out that part of her personality. I think the woman's doing the absolute right thing. She's moving the horse. She's packing up both of her horses, and she's moving her horses. Because there were no compromises that were satisfactory for all involved. The lady that brings the food out to the horse apparently still is going to do it that way, and the farm isn't willing to do anything to make that more safe for that. Even that, like, the farm's not even willing to make it more safe for that woman, right? A rule is often for your safety. Like me saying don't bring food, cookies out into my pastures, that's for your safety. It's also for the safety of my horses. Because once they get wrestling around with each other, you know, I lost a horse to a field fight. You know, a good kick can shatter a knee. You know, when I was 12, one of my horses got kicked in the knee and shattered his knee, and, you know, they had to put him down. So why would I want, as a farm owner, want to allow anything that could create that kind of argument amongst the horses if I can avoid it? So I guess I know it's a very long-winded and went in different directions, of course, because that's just what I do. But I think the farm should have responsibility to not only make it so that all their boarders' horses are safe, but also make it so all their boarders are safe. Like, so this woman is safe. Like, she created a problem with this young horse. It's an avoidable thing. Like, she doesn't have to do it that way. And it's a recipe for danger. It's not like it's just some freak thing. This horse, you know, just decided she's going to start charging people. She's charging somebody because she doesn't understand why food being brought in the pasture isn't for her, and she's starting to demand that the food that's being brought in the pasture is for her. She's a baby, you know, she's 2.5. She's not like she's 16, and even if a 16-year-old started acting that way, I wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, so I was just kind of wanting to talk out, like, I think farms should have more responsibilities for the safety of their boarders, for the safety of their boarders' horses. And when a conflict like this arises, there needs to be like a sit down that says, hey, you know, look, this is potentially dangerous for not only this lady, but it's potentially dangerous for other people who might be coming in to handle their horse, because, well, if that lady comes in with food, maybe the other ladies come in with food. You know, I don't know how many horses are in the pasture, but let's just say there's 7 boarders in that pasture. There's 6 other ladies that might come in there. Well, she might have food. Let's go chase her down, you know. I'm telling you, I think that's just such a recipe for... It's a recipe for an accident. And if I knew that this was a problem, like if I was aware, like it was brought to my attention as a farm owner that, hey, this person's bringing food out to the pasture and it's causing other horses to act aggressively towards people, I'd squash it. I'd squash it, because I think that would be considered having notice, right? Like, a lawsuit is pretty easy to have if there's proof that the person who should have fixed it knew about it, right? So I think that would put the farm at risk if somebody else gets hurt. And it doesn't have to be this 2.5-year-old that hurts them. It could be another horse that says, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's see if we can't go mug her. So anyway, that's my story. Long-windedly, that's my story. I'll probably end up taking this down and splitting it up into all the different topics I covered. Have a great day. Bye.